Hello everyone. I had intended on doing a video and entitling it A Day in the Life of a Lifelong Utahn, born and raised. I've only been to a couple other states for a short period of time, but I've lived in Utah my whole life. And I was going to explain my journey or share it, but then I watched the Charlie Kirk Memorial. I was at church when it started, so I put it on pause, and I came home and spent the entire rest of my day watching it. Watching Erica Kirk was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my 60 years of life in the day of a Utahn. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch the video. Every one of the talks were so good, but man, hers was so touching. So, I was born in Utah. I used to think growing up it was kind of a boring place. I loved my family life. I loved it. We lived in the middle of cornfields, out in the boonies by the Great Salt Lake. And people made fun of us because we kind of lived in the boonies, but we grew up right next door to my cousins. So my mom and her sister both built homes by each other when they got married. Well, shortly after they got married. And my mom raised 9 kids, and my aunt raised 5 kids, and we were one big family. We always had somebody to hang out with or play with, or, I used to go to my cousin's. She was a year older than me, and we'd play paper dolls, or we'd get in the cars and pretend like we were going on trips, or we'd play kick the can, or no bears are out tonight, and we'd lay out on the rooftops and get tan, and it was the life. It was the 70s, and it was the best time in life. The 70s and 80s, but mostly when I was growing up. I was born in 65, so late 60s, 70s is when I was growing up. 80s was my high school, college years. Nothing better. I loved my family, I loved my life, except for I wanted a little more adventure. Utah's cold. We're a very high elevation, and it snows 8 months out of the year. That's an exaggeration, but that's what it feels like. I hate the cold with a passion. I hate the cold, and I've always wondered why in the heck do I still live in Utah? And my whole growing up, I wanted to get out of Utah. I wanted to live in Florida or somewhere tropical because I love the sun. I love the tropical green, lush earth when it's alive. In Utah, the mountains are gorgeous. We have a great diversity. We've got the mountains, and they're so green, and quaky aspen trees with the pine trees. Quaky and aspen trees are my favorite. Pine trees, maple trees, gorgeous lakes everywhere. And we went to them every summer as a family. We'd go camping by a lake every single summer. And my dad did take us. We'd travel in a van without air conditioning with 8 or 9 kids. One time it was 7 or 8 kids. One year we drove clear across the nation from Utah we went to Disney World in Florida. I loved it because I could finally be in the warm weather by the ocean. I love nothing more than the ocean because it's so healing. Not only is it beautiful and it's tranquil, but it's gorgeous and it's healing. And I've always wanted to live by the ocean. I've always wanted to be a beach bum. Not to be lazy, but just because I love the beach and I love the ocean and I love the warmth. And so in Florida or somewhere like that, and get the dodge out of Utah from the cold. But I stayed here because my family's here. I did live in Louisiana and Mississippi for a year and a half while I served a mission, and I loved loved it. I loved every minute of it. I loved the people in the South. It was hot and humid, and I would never want to live there again. And I lived in New York for a month and a half. I thought it'd be longer, but it didn't turn out that way. But for the rest of the time, I've lived in Utah. And so when my kids were little, we were living in Orem, Utah, where the shooting happened, 5 minutes from UVU. I took a songwriting class at UVU when my kids were little. I knew the campus well, and then we lived there for 7 years, and I loved Orem, Utah. It felt like home to me. It's not where I grew up. It's an hour south of where I grew up, but I loved it. And I didn't want to leave. And then we went up to Cache Valley, 2 hours north. And that's where we basically raised our kids. So I had my babies in Orem, 3 of them. And then we moved up to Cache Valley, and that's where we raised our kids. And that's where they went to school and graduated, and that's where they call their home. And then it's kind of ironic because 3 of my 4 kids ended up back here in Orem and Provo, or just south of Provo as well. And then I ended up back here. And I literally live 12 minutes from Utah Valley University now. 2 of my kids went to school there for their college days. One of my daughters worked on campus, so I would go to campus and visit her. I've driven by that campus 101 times, if not 201 times. Never thinking anything of it. You know, and then you have BYU just 4 miles down the hill in front of the gorgeous mountains. Oh, and I was going to say we have a lot of diversity because not only do we have the mountains, but in southern Utah we have the Red Rocks and Moab and the Arches, which is gorgeous. If you've never been to Zions Canyon or Bryce Canyon, go. Bryce Canyon is the most gorgeous thing I've seen. Even though I love the ocean, there is nothing like Bryce Canyon, in my opinion. You need to see it. A lot of diversity here, and I'm proud of that. But the point I'm going to make is I used to think that Utah Valley was the safest place in the world. It's called Happy Valley because all the Mormons are here, and they all are in this protective bubble, and we all have 10 kids, and we all go to church every week. I'm sorry, something's happened to my camera, I'm not sure. And I used to feel like Utah Valley